Welcome everyone to the SkyPunk Media Podcast. We are on episode 2. I am your host Ryan Clark, along with the guy that puts the rage in Rage Gaming, Mr. Johnny Travis,
right,
and Mr. Point and Click himself, Mr. Troy McJohnson. How are you guys doing today? You right?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, not bad, mate. Pretty good.
Good. We got a jam-packed episode for you this week. First of all, we were just less than 24 hours dropped from the most anticipated game of 2020, that is Cyberpunk 2077. So we'll be going to be talking about our initial thoughts as both Johnny and Troy have had an opportunity to play the game. As for myself, not really had the opportunity, but we'll see how that goes. And then in part 2, we're going to be talking we'll be going into discussion about digital games and digital services. We kind of touched base on this last week briefly, but we just thought it'd be an opportunity to talk about it a little bit more in depth. Now, before we go into any further, I just have a few shout outs. First of all, just want to give a shout out to one of our Instagram followers at gamer_fanatic86, formerly known as Knowledge Johnson. Knowledge has been kindly supporting SkyPunk Media on Instagram by tagging us in most of his posts and giving us numerous shout outs. We just want to take this opportunity to thank Knowledge for his support on Instagram. We greatly appreciate it, and obviously we hope you are all safe and well. If you do want to check out his channel, that is gamer_fanatic86. And also just want to give a quick shout out to Queen Rules. You may recall that we released a review of the game not too long ago. It's a fantastic mobile puzzle game that we looked into, and it's got a unique presentation, kind of influenced by Alice in Wonderland and also chess. And the great thing I found about it was that it's accessible to all skill levels and all ages as well. So if you do want to check them out, you can check out our review on our website, skypunk.co.uk, or you can check out queenrulesgame.com. For more information, and download links are available in both. It's only $1.99 currently and is available for iPhone and iPod devices. Right, now with that all out of the way, so we're going to talk about Cyberpunk 2077. So I understand, obviously, you mainly you've played the game briefly last night when it came out at midnight. So what are your initial thoughts? Is the hype worth it, or what kind of problems did you have? Any problems? Like, what's the lowdown?
Complicated question, isn't it, Johnny? Very complicated.
Yeah, we've got positives and negatives about the whole thing. I don't know if you want to go first with it, Theo, because I've got a chunk to say, so I don't really want to steal the show.
Well, I had trouble downloading it to start with, as many people did across the world. What were Twitter like when it were released, Johnny?
Twitter were going crazy. I mean, Steam were trending, GOG were trending, Cyberpunk's been trending for about 3 days now, but yeah, a lot of angry fans trying to get the game up midnight, but 10, 15 minutes, half an hour after, people still unable to get the updates for it because demand was so high and all servers were jam-packed. I mean, it was a fight, wasn't it? But I was struggling, you were struggling, as friend Chris was struggling, but he managed to get it first, lucky bugger.
Yeah, I resigned to bed in the end, but I managed to wake up at 3 a.m. to actually play it. So you can imagine in that state, I wasn't very receptive to any bugs that was visible at the time. So I didn't notice any at that time. It was only this morning that I noticed how many there were.
Wow, so it sounds like you guys have pretty much had quite a battle to begin with. I mean, for myself, my copy only just arrived today in the post. So all I can really review about it is the look of the box, which is it's quite cool. Comes up with a little extras, but presentation isn't the key thing here. I'm mainly detracting. I need to stop that. So what problems have you guys encountered? Like, is it just basic rendering?
Here we go.
There's a lot of issues globally. You want me to take over this one, Theo?
Yeah.
Go.
Well, we'll start from the start. Like Theo said, we had some issues getting the game started, but that wasn't the end of it. But there were some positives. We'll talk about some positives before we get into the negatives.
Definitely some positives.
For a positive, the game has sold over 8 million units on pre-orders alone.
Wow.
Which is very impressive. I mean, what is it? Ghost of Tsushima only sold like sold like 5.5 within a couple of weeks or something. I think it was something like, but 8 million on pre-orders alone is ridiculous. And with all the traffic last night, it's also beaten the Steam record for most concurrent players on a single player. The record was previously held by Fallout 4 with 472,000. Cyberpunk has more than doubled it with just over 1 million players on at the same time playing Cyberpunk.
Ooh,
so it is
that's impressive
record. So it's definitely made the hype with the amount of people buying it and playing it. But when it comes to quality and things like that, we all know it's a massive open world. We expect bugs and things like that in games. We've had it on Elder Scrolls games, The Witcher, CD Projekt Red's last big open world RPG. So we expect it on this, but I just don't think myself, Troy, or the rest of the players were expecting this many. I mean, my first bugs came on the character creation right at the start. I was trying to... yeah, exactly. Same. That's how bad it was. Yeah, same for Troy and others. You'd be selecting options, and all of a sudden, the cursor would just go onto different categories with your character, so you just lose what's going on, or you end up changing the wrong thing.
Yeah, just whilst we're on that, I just want to say that it was a bit of a disappointment how little customization options there is on this game when it's received so much hype for customized ability.
What were the numbers like? What is it? Is it like I don't know, like a Madden game where you've only got like 4 characters? When I say 4 character models,
it's kind of a midway between that and Fallout. With Fallout, you can, it's brilliant in it. You can customize pretty much a lot of things, but with this, you only have so many presets for each aspect, and there are a lot of aspects that you can customize, but within those aspects, there's only a set number of presets, which isn't enough. And the color schemes, there ain't enough colors on them.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I mean, we've seen it before on Fallout 4. We've seen it on other RPG games where you can actually get the cursor and pull on the aspects of your face and change them.
Augment.
Yeah, and on Cyberpunk, it's like you've got a few presets for like your chin, your cheeks, your eyes, and then it just molds it into the preset. You can't just adjust the tiny little elements. But then it's the hair. There were a good selection of hair. I'll give them that, but the colors were poor. And then when it came to like facial piercings and things like that, you couldn't place specific piercings wherever you wanted. It's like they just had presets, and I think they've only had about 7 or 8. You can either have all your ears done and stuff, or those are like nose piercings, eyebrow piercings. And it was same with tattoos, which that was the biggest letdown, I think. You got to body tattoos.
Oh yeah, of course it was.
Instead of being able to choose each limb in your torso and apply like certain tattoos, they had like whole body tattoos, and there was 5 to choose from. Which, yeah, and they weren't really that inviting. So I've got a nice little neck tattoo going on and everything like that, but there weren't enough options, and it were pretty disappointing with that. Like Troy said, sorry, when they've got a lot of categories where you can do your nails, your teeth, your genitalia, everything, but it's just those categories are just lacking with content.
So yeah, like I said, so first impressions, we're going into this and we're thinking, oh God, what's coming after this then? You know, as you go into the game.
Yeah, I know it would have
first let down.
Yeah, especially with bug as well. And then I got into the game of people have had some performance issues, and I kind of understand where they're coming from, because with the mirrors in the game, all the mirrors are blurred. And they've done it on purpose, because when there's reflections, real life reflections, performance gets hit big time. So they've made it like, they've come up with an excuse for it. It's like a digital mirror. So you've got to press a button on it, and then it comes clear and shows your reflection. And then it turns off when you leave it, which is smart on their part. It gets rid of the performance hit. But then 10 minutes in, I was running around. I thought something's off here. And I realised there were no footsteps. And I've noticed it multiple times during my playthrough already that I've had to save and reload just to get my footsteps working again for sound. And then from that, it just spiraled out of control. I mean, I've got a little list here, right?
Gets worse and worse from there.
Read away, go on.
So we've got...
What am I in for?
Well, I came back on it today, sorry. And literally coming from my apartment downstairs to the main plaza, I got hit with 3 bugs straight away, and a floating NPC, an NPC inside of a cash machine or ATM, whatever, same thing. Tries run into NPCs inside other NPCs. NPCs not sat on seats, so just sat in midair. What else?
This is a good one for you, Ryan. I tried to steal a car from a woman, and the woman that was in it just bottled straight through the roof into space. And I grabbed an invisible person and pulled her out. This shouldn't be happening on a released game. All these, well, at least most of the bugs should be picked up in their alphas and the betas before the final product. They can't be releasing stuff like this.
I'm fully with you. I mean, we expected bugs, but it's just the scale of bugs and how often they occur. It's immersion breaking. I mean, we've got them all here. We've got invisible weapons, enemies holding invisible weapons, fire burning it midair for no reason. The one bit where Jackie is eating some noodles out of a box and random with some chopsticks floated in the middle of the screen for no reason. It's just constant stuff. And I've had briefcases left in middle of nowhere, and it's just stuff all the time. And once you start getting into the game, something like that happens and just takes you straight out. But we always used to laugh. There's a big joke around Bethesda games always being broken when they come out, and okay, they are to an extent, but you don't see bugs everywhere you turn. I know there's a lot of them, but you don't see them on this scale. It's like I've played for about 6 hours and it's just bugs everywhere. It's not very acceptable when it's been, I won't say it's 8 years development. I think they might have started the hard development in like 2016, but they've had numerous delays. And that goes on to another point, which is PlayStation 4s and Xbox Ones. There's a bit of a riot kicking off about that online at the moment because the game is almost unplayable. Resolutions are 720 and below. Frame rates are struggling around 20s, 30s if they're lucky. Textures aren't loading in. Textures are empty. And then I've seen a lot of comments, to be honest, with people saying, what do you expect to play like a kind of next-gen game on a 8-year-old console? And that ain't the point. The point is the developers made a product for those systems that should work. And they can't say it's too demanding because, look, Xbox has had Gears 5, Red Dead Redemption 2. We've had Ghost of Tsushima on PlayStation, Last of Us Part 2, graphically demanding as hell, you can admit. There's no excuse not to be able to have Cyberpunk running on that. I mean, it is a good graphic game, but I just don't think it's amazingly super graphical. I don't think it should suffer with that performance. And to say this 3-week delay will because it wasn't working on those consoles, it leaves me wondering a bit what's going on over there.
Yeah, it seems crazy. I mean, like when not this kind of delayed, for something. I mean, like the trailer for Cyberpunk 2077 came out in January of 2013. That was when we got the first. I mean, like we didn't get any gameplay, but that was the first kind of, taster. Like that was around the time the PS4 was about to launch.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it, we were still in the PS3 era where it got announced, and now it's been released completely, outside of, now we've got the PS5 coming out. And I mean, to be fair, like what the games, I mean, remember Duke Nukem Forever? That took like almost 12 years and it ended up being a complete disaster.
That was embarrassing, that, because I wanted that really bad and I hyped it up and a few mates at work bought it. And a couple of hours after getting home, I got some interesting messages about the game because it turned out to be complete shit.
I remember, it's interesting, I had Duke Nukem Manhattan Project back when I had a PC that was actually half decent, but this was back in 2003. It's basically just like a platform version of Duke Nukem. It's actually really good, actually. And there was a trailer for Duke Nukem Forever on that. And I remember looking at that and thinking at the time, wow, like it looked like Half-Life, but it was just Duke Nukem in all of its glory.
Yeah.
And I was psyched for it. And then it just died. And then as soon as it came out, I was like, oh, Duke Nukem Forever's out. Wait, what? It just kind of came by surprise when it came out. And like you said, it was just it was just underwhelming. And I agree with you. I think it's one of these things where there was talk of the crunch and a case of, should developers and should creators be put under these conditions? And I guess it's a multi-platted discussion, because the end of the day, you want to be able to get a product out. However, it should be the company that should be able to have decisive milestones. Things will always get delayed. That can happen. It's not. We can't escape it sometimes. Some things have to take time. And I think because of the recent delays, I think CD Projekt Red had their hands chucked to them. I think with the new generation, I think they wanted people to be playing the game. And I think they were kind of rushed as a result, which
they rushed by their own hype though, more than anything.
Yeah. And if you think about it, like they've spent I was watching I've forgotten who it was on YouTube specifically. My apologies, I can't remember. But they made a great point in saying that, like, in terms of Cyberpunk 2077, it's just great to say off the tongue, but experience. But they have been advertising this to an aggressive degree. Like, it was the main sponsor for a WWE pay-per-view Survivor Series just over a month ago. Like, I've just kind of looked at it, I was like, oh, it's so, okay, cool. You see all the Facebook ad, like every fifth advert I saw was Cyberpunk, and there has been such an aggression for this. Like, and to me, like, hearing that 8 million pre-orders, I'm not surprised, because trust me, they marketed the hell out of this.
Oh, it was perfectly marketed. It might have been dragged out, but it was perfect.
Yeah, they had everything crisp. But I think the question I have is, are we entering in like Colonial Marines or No Man's Sky territory, where we're seeing false advertising? Now, I guess it's too early to tell. And I think with what we know about The Witcher 3, they did make commitments to that and did push through. So I'm expecting CD Projekt Red to, even though they have released a game that, according to you guys, is incredibly buggy, as well as the community, I shouldn't forget that, but I think they would be dedicated to fixing those things over time. And in a way, you know, we see some games as a service games where they haven't got the content. So I think to have a game like Cyberpunk 2077 with the content there, I can respect it a little more than some games as a service games. However, it should be no excuse for us to have to be limited by the fact that we get these buggy, unplayable experiences at launch. We've had games from much older generations. They sometimes have bugs. You know, we can't really escape them. It's just something that happens. But the games were workable. They were consistent because they had to be. And I think since we've been in this generation where we now have digital services to facilitate these updates, I think in a way it's how do I put this?
You know, I think we're pushing the negative a bit too much here, because the patches will come, but by which point many people will have played most of the game, which is a bit upsetting, really, because you want to have the full experience. But aside from the bugs, it is a playable game. The advertisement campaign didn't. How should I put this? It's not. It's not. It is what they've advertised. The look and the feel is brilliant. It's amazing. It's just what they've told us it's going to be. And the story, when we're getting into story now, it's all tying together. It seems well thought out. It's well scripted. The voice acting is brilliant, probably second to none. What do you think about that, Johnny?
I've got to agree with you. Yeah, there are negatives of the bugs and stuff, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them in a second, a bit more. Well, some previous stuff, but yeah, the positives. I mean, I'm about 5-6 hours in. I've only just got past the title screen. You play a massive chunk, and then by the way, no spoilers here, but yeah, you get deep into it, and then the title screen comes up. I'm like, what? We're just starting.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got into
I
it.
heard the prologue's long.
Yeah. It's really long. Well, there's I thought the prologue were really earlier on, but it's not. But anyway, the story's got juicy now, and I'm captivated. Like Troy said, the voice acting is amazing. The story is building up, and the most magnificent bit is the world. I've only just started exploring the city, and it is dense. It is amazing. I don't know how they've pulled it off, but it is brilliant. So
just say, sorry, I was going to say, do you think it would facilitate? Because the one thing, as soon as I saw the trailers for Cyberpunk, I thought this is going to be Blade Runner in a game, and the prospect of that excited me so much. Would that be a fair analogy in terms of, you say about the density, in terms of that atmosphere, would that be an accurate analogy?
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a bit more diluted science fiction wise, but density wise, I'd probably agree with you.
It is. They're up there with all the hacking and the technology, things like that. It does really fit that theme. But if we quickly just go back to the bugs, I know people don't like us hating. I'll tell you something, people, right? We're not hating on CD Projekt Red. I love CD Projekt Red. Everybody does, right? They're an amazing company. We're not beating on the game, but you can't just praise the developer because of previous work they've done. You've got to just judge it how it comes. And like I said, the game is amazing. It's literally just the bugs and the customizing things. But the thing I wanted to say is, it's in this state now, and PS4 players and Xbox players are suffering on the original consoles because it's just really struggling with everything. But it was supposed to come out in March. Now, if it had come out in March, if it's struggling now, what kind of state would it been back in March? And I do
be like Fallout 76.
Oh, well,
Still haven't played that yet.
Duh. Well, apparently it's got better, but it's not my cup of tea. I'm not giving it a go. But yeah, I mean, I do personally think, and you agree, Troy, that the game could have done with another 6 to 12 months for polishing.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
But
they should have delayed it.
They should have, but I kind of understand because, I mean, with this 3-week delay, what share prices went down about 22% or something stupid.
Yeah, but that, they've dug their own grave with that, haven't they? With their advertising.
And they've got the shareholders that are on the back about it and everything. And let's add that they do have to create this game for 9 platforms, which is a ridiculous ask anyway. But they have tweeted out today saying the game might be out, but their hard work hasn't finished. They are going to keep supporting the game. So they are going to keep going with it. But like I said, 9 platforms. That's a lot of bugs, a lot of platforms. But it brings me on to another subject. I mean, like I said, with some people there, it's unplayable on like the old consoles. They've paid 50, 60, 70 pounds, depending on what version. They should be getting an experience to come and play and enjoy, even if it's not the best. All right, reduce graphics and things. But when are we going to get out of this broken on release, we'll fix it later routine? Because it's becoming normal and people are accepting it. Because we've mentioned it here, Troy's just mentioned it, and a lot of people online say it like, oh, calm down, they'll fix it, they'll bring out patches over the next few weeks and months. And it's like, well, that ain't the point at the end of the day. People are investing in a product that they believe is going to be good. I mean, CD Projekt Red, the first delay, about 6 months, and they said, oh, it's not up to our standards, we want it to be like really tight. So that fills us with a bit of hope. So it's like, when's it going to stop? I mean, you mentioned No Man's Sky on there. I've got a couple on here. No Man's Sky, Anthem, Battlefield 4, the Master Chief Collection took 2 years to get into a playable position for people because the menus weren't working right. There were issues on Halo 2 and 3. Skyrim had its issues when it first launched with like the save data issue on the PlayStation, where every time you saved it, the file got bigger and bigger, and you had backwards flying dragons and stuff. But at the end of the day, when's it going to stop? And why has it become socially acceptable to buy something for £60 and then be told by people that you should just live with it and you've got to wait for the patches?
You're totally right. We should be pushing back. We should be refunding it or whatever, so that they know that whenever they release a game, it has to be a finished product. Very minimal bugs. It's as if somebody at CD Projekt Red has picked up the wrong, like a previous version of the game, like a file, and said, right, this is it, by accident, and released it.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe they need to cut back on content and just make a more solid game. It's like, look, players are happy to wait a few months for extra content if you like bring it out in stages, as long as that game is solid, instead of just releasing like 100 hours of content, but bugs and issues, rendering, things like that. People would much rather have a complete game. And I must apologize to anyone watching if there's any lip sync issues here. It's Zoom. Who knows what's going on? But yeah, I do think it's a big issue. I mean, I take my hat off to Hello Games, the developers for No Man's Sky. I mean, it came out, they literally, they did lie. They didn't keep to the truth when they advertised the game for launch. It came with a lot of features that were missing and they were just nowhere to be seen. They have stuck with it with 3 updates over the last 3-4 years, and it is a really good playable game now. I mean, I've got to appreciate it for that, but the fact is, it should have been that on launch.
Yeah.
Fair play. You stuck with it and you fixed it. Much respect, but you shouldn't have advertised it in the state it was. You should have just said, look, it's basic now, but we're adding things. We've got plans to add more patches and updates to make it into more of a game, but don't advertise it on that final product when that final product is miles away.
No, that's it. And they're still communicating with the fan base, aren't they?
Yeah.
And saying, this is what we're going to do. And they're following through with it. And they're carrying on with the patches and they're just updating the game all the time. But we've got to remember that these types of games, it's not a small feat.
Oh,
it's
not by a long shot.
Task.
There's a lot of people involved.
To tie up. I understand that, yeah, you're going to have bugs in these types of games. And they should be livable with, but not like this.
But the issue is, there's a lot of people saying the only way to fight back against this kind of thing is, everyone says it all the time, don't they? Don't pre-order. Wait till it's out and see what you're getting. The problem with this is that there's a couple of issues. There's the issue where publishers take the amount of pre-orders and they can estimate how many they're going to sell on release after and how many pre-orders, and they can up the budget for the game during it's being made. It's a bit like a Kickstarter in it, but you know it's coming. So it's like, and smaller companies, they can take that. If you get like 3 million pre-orders, that's a lot of money, and that can add to how much you put into the game. But I'm guessing, I'm thinking with a lot of publishers, if they end up with a lot of pre-orders, like, look, people are really hyped for this game, it's going to sell a lot. Here's an extra, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 million. Just get on with it and make sure it's right on release. But we still see them pushing stuff out early. I mean, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, that has quite a few bugs, and they pushed that a week early just to get it out with the launch of the Xbox.
Yeah, I think the one thing I will say is we don't discard anyone who's involved in the creative process of a game. Like I said, the games have become more advanced in the last couple of decades, and we're not trying to discredit any sort of creative or work efforts made by people. You're dealing with a lot of different elements, especially with games the way they are now, and we appreciate those things. However, I don't personally think it's the responsibility of the gamers to point out flaws in a product that should be operational. It's just, and you can see why, because people have probably held back. They've said, absolutely, why do I want to play this game? I want to experience it in a fluent way. And it's like we say with like No Man's Sky and Fallout 76. I mean, No Man's Sky, their content updates were actually really appealing. Like for me, I remember, I think both you guys playing it, and I was like, wow, that you showed me the changes and differences, and I was really appealed to it. Whereas with like Fallout 76, I could see the things there, and it just doesn't appeal to me because I think of how it was before. And is that a fair analogy? I don't know, but I think the crucial thing is first impressions count. And first impressions can stay with a game throughout its whole life cycle, which is why you've got to make the good first impression, because it can set the tone for how your game is going to be received. Even if you post numerous updates afterwards, you're going to be doing a lot to try and convince gamers to invest time in your product.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't want to give Fallout 76 a chance, by the way, but I didn't like the way Bethesda handles some things at the start. Just quickly going off it, we'll carry on with Cyberpunk in a second, but they put in, because they had all this merchandise coming out with the game, and they put up fake reviews for the products, which I really didn't like. And as soon as that got pointed out, they did whatever, even worse, when it got pointed out, they took them down, which just even worse for themselves. Let's take it down and just admit that you've done it. And then they were cancelling people's orders and then redirecting them. They were selling wrong material for the bags, and then they made the biggest scoop, which is they leaked everybody's billing addresses and everything on the website, which is just a massive security flaw. And I just, for morals and stuff like that, I was just like, no, I'm not even going to give your Fallout 76 the time of day, to be honest, the way you've handled people's information and treated them. Never mind the game on its own.
Even one of the collector's editions for Fallout 76, It was because you got those helmets. One of the special editions contained some sort of material that could have been hazardous to your health.
Yeah,
so they
yeah.
had to do a recall on those. It was just one thing after another.
They didn't help themselves at all, did they?
No, they didn't.
I mean,
And
how does this sort of stuff happen in this day and age? How does it happen? How does it get past quality control?
Exactly. It's a bit of like cost-effective relative things, isn't it? And
I think it's
kind of cutting corners in like legal ways and trying to, boost profits and things like that. They're pushing because that's how they make the most money out of merchandise.
Well, the other thing as well is they said to game reviewers that they could only use like B-list footage from their trailer, which is a red flag. Why would you force game reviewers to be pushing that unless you had problems? Lo and behold, you guys have already listed a sheet full of problems, and I should have seen the writing on the wall, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
I think this game has such an aura about it. It's like I say, like Blade Runner in a video game, like that.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk as a film genre, I have loved for a number of years. Some, even if it's not specifically involved with androids, like we've had some great movies like Ex Machina. We've had Gattaca, Equilibrium, 12 Monkeys, not to mention Akira and Ghost in the Shell on the anime side.
Now we're talking.
It's such a fascinating genre because it blends sci-fi with these kind of sort of moralistic themes that are just intriguing. Another one, Strange Days with Ralph Fiennes. It's a little bit of a raw kind of film, but fantastic. Basically deals with these VR style headsets called Squid, and they can record what you see, what you hear, and what you feel. And they're sold on the black market, like it's like a drug almost, And it's a fascinating look into how like this VR technology could be used for bad. Like that is a great film. And I think to kind of rein it in, I think because this was the first big game to go all bold, to look like this, I agree. I got sucked into it because it has such an aura about it. Like even hearing some of my favorite synthwave musicians like Perturbator, Power Glove, and Mitch Murder,
absolutely.
like hearing their involvements with the game, I'm sitting there going, all of these people are involved. Like the stars are aligning, but now it just seems like the stars aren't even shining. Again,
it's bold, isn't it? It's very bold. And do you know what? I think despite the initial bugs, which will get fixed, I think they might have pulled it off.
Yeah, they might do. It just depends how they're going to support it and how quickly they can get things up and running. Because, sorry to say, but it will get better for everybody with the bugs and things. It's just something we have to wait out. It's just how things are. But I mean, like you were saying, right? You got sucked in because the hype was strong, and the hype is kind of to blame on us, the public. We got hyped for it. I mean, as soon as you heard CD Projekt Red were building a futuristic RPG open world, it's like got me. They've got my money already. I don't care what it is. But then we give them the hype, and then they've been hyping it with like those documentary series episodes have been putting out and trailers. So they've been feeding us. We've built the hype again, feeding us. We'll keep building the hype, and then it's like, how much can you live up to that hype? And I mean, it's a brilliant game, though. I mean, put the bugs aside, it is absolutely phenomenal what they've managed to do. And Keanu Reeves, brilliant.
He's breathtaking.
He's absolutely breathtaking in it.
He's sexy wazzy.
I will say one point though. I've not played the game, so everything I'm saying should be taken not with a pinch of salt, but with a bag of salt, because I think I'm only speaking from my personal experiences, what I see as a positive and what I see as a negative. So for me, I can't really make a judgment on the game. However, I've seen these lessons before in other games, and that's why I'm kind of being a bit judgmental at this moment. And I think that one of the great things that I learned when I was going into my younger adult years was that it's okay for people make mistakes. That's fine. But what's not okay is to repeat them. And I think because we see so many of these issues rinsed and repeated so many times in games, I think that's why we are naturally just just very hesitant. But I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. I think we are going to be producing some content regarding our, kind of certain checkpoints in the game. So we'll certainly keep you up to date, whether it be here on the podcast or via our website. I'm certain that it's something that we will be keeping you up to date on our progress, and certainly for myself, I mean, I've got the console version, you guys have got the PC version, so it'll be interesting to see how our experiences differ over the coming weeks and months. So I hope the experience for you guys does improve from those bugs that you mentioned.
Well, it's kind of getting used to it now. I'm seeing a bug now and kind of just laughing and just shaking it off and being like, well, I'll carry on with the game. The story's got me now, and this, like I said, the city's opened up and things like that. So I'm excited. But I'm a bit gutted for you because you're on the PS5 and they haven't released a next gen patch for the Xbox Series X or the PS5 yet. It's coming next year. So you're using the PS4 version, but it's another slight negative. People are going to hate me for this podcast, I swear, because I've just chat all over it. But it's just the fact that they've had all these delays and stuff, and they haven't got the patch out for you. But we've had there's already patches out for previous games that have been out months and even like a year in some cases. So it'd be nice for you. But hopefully, from what I've heard, it's runs smoothly on PlayStation 5. You should have an all right time.
I'll let you guys know. And fingers crossed.
When can you play it, Ryan? When? Have you got a 40 gigabyte update, mate?
I have got 40 gig. And the fact is, my internet is really bad. So I worked out it's going to take 9 hours to download the update. I really need to upgrade my internet. And on that note, because I don't want to be shamed anymore on that, we're going to take a quick ad. Quick ad break. We're just going to take a quick break on this side, but we'll be right back in the next few seconds. Wow, that is a lovely logo. I think you'll agree. Welcome back to part 2 of the SkyPunk Media Podcast. So we're going into part 2. So this part of the episode, we're going to be talking about digital games and digital services. Of course, this is something that has only recently come around in the last 15 years, ever since the release of Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, the Wii, and also with the ever-growing size of games, especially in the PC side as well. Because in terms of this, it seems that with the PlayStation 5 and with the Xbox Series consoles, specifically the S and the discless versions, that we're seeing more of this move towards digital. And I think the one thing I kind of want to ask in this part is, will digital be the future? Will it be completely the future? And should it be? So obviously, the one thing I want to confirm with my two fine comrades here, because this is, funnily enough, not something that I've actually asked you guys before. How do you usually acquire games? Are you physical? Are you digital? What do you prefer and why?
Pirate Bay.
No more.
Is it a pirate's life for you?
Not
after those fines, Johnny.
Back in old days.
No, I'm purely digital now, and it's a convenience thing because I'm just conforming to humanity's culture now. So might as well carry on.
It's part of the change. I'm going to join the rebellion. Physical.
Purely because I'm lazy. I think time is a valuable asset, and the time taken to go shopping just for a game is just not what I'm willing to give up.
So it's more the platform and the ease of downloading it, rather than it being another element like a price or anything like that.
Price has never been a factor for me. It's just convenience.
Okay.
Lazy.
And what about you, Johnny? What do you tend to go for?
I'm a blend because standard as a PC user, basically everything is download. I don't even have a disk drive for that anymore. If I have to put a disk in, I've got to get an external. But it's all digital on PC. But when it comes to consoles, things like that, like the Switch and the PlayStation, it's physical for me. I do prefer a lot more physical, but you don't see it often for PC anymore. And normally when you do, you don't normally get a disc. It's just a code. So it's pretty much pointless getting physical. But there's a lot of aspects I like about physical. I do like going to the shop and getting it. I do like that. There's no better than having a nice shiny new game that you got to pull that wrapper off and the smell. It was better when they had the booklets inside. They used to smell gorgeous.
What about the waste products? Recycling.
Here we go. I could recycle a games case, I bet. It's all plastic.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, not that you need to, because you just resell it, don't you?
Exactly. Well, that's one of the extra reasons. Look at him, Greenpeace over here.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Troy, I didn't realise you were such an environmentalist.
No, you should see my recycling bin. It's full of all sorts. It's not recyclable.
Learn things new about you every day.
Ain't it? But yeah, there's that aspect I like about it. I do like the reselling part, trading, lending to friends and lending games from those. What else is there about it? Well, when it comes to digital, because I've got a few issues with digital, even though I do use digital on PC, like I said, is that you're not always guaranteed to have that game and keep that game due to licenses and things like that. Because as we all know, as we all know, even if you buy it physically, you do not own that product. You own the license on it basically until it runs out. But at the end of the day, you can't get a disc taken off you or anything like that. You'd have to send it back to the company. But with digital, they can just remove it from the store. It's on terms and conditions. You can't do all about it. And the things like you've got franchises like the Marvel things and DC and stuff like that. And then there's also a lot of copyright with like music and things like that. That's why some old games can't re-release, because there's issues with the music licenses agreements and things like that. So
Grand Theft Auto 5 was a perfect example, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
this Grim Fandango remaster was the same issue. They've had to reorchestrate the full soundtrack for the remaster.
I heard a different reason for that.
How did you?
It was for the actual orchestral bits. In the original, they didn't actually use an orchestra.
No, they didn't.
They used something different, which were a cheaper version. But I heard from another podcast from a developer that they actually using full orchestra just they wanted to do the vision that they originally wanted to do back when they made the game.
LucasArts,
So they did it like that. There might have been a copyright issue as well. That might have just been like a bit more of a push, like, you got a copyright issue. Oh, well, we wanted to record it anyway. Like,
we'll skirt over that fact. But I do understand the appeal to having something tangible in your hand. I think it's almost like a resistance to the change in society, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think as well, if you think about it, obviously the main reason why digital is the way it is, the one key factor is the advances of the internet. When you grind it down, that is the one core aspect. Because you think about all the internet services, like for example, I think one of the earliest examples was iTunes back in 2001. That was a simple platform for people to download music. Now it is considered one of the biggest markets for purchasing music. Obviously, there have been other services like Spotify, Apple Music, and even Amazon have done their own music service. But for its time, it was quite a big thing, and iTunes took out a big chunk of the physical music market. And then you go into digital for games, like Steam was one of the first back in 2003. You then had the Xbox Game Store, which came out at launch in 2005, and it was a year until PlayStation released their store as well. So I think those stores came about because there were companies that were releasing this style of content, and for its time I thought it was fantastic. Like, you didn't have to, for a digital game, if you couldn't find a certain game anywhere, or if it had a large expense, you could download it. One of the games, before I actually bought the physical version, because I'm insane that way, was Persona 3 FES. The only way I could play it was buying a copy on PS3, and it was £8. How much is it for a physical copy on the PlayStation 2? Near 130. So it was the only opportunity that I had at that time to experience that game. So I think with the digital aspects, there are some opportunities where you can get things less, and it's nice that way. However, I would also go with the physical point. For me, it's something where I I call it the library effect. Funny, I've got 2 bookshelves behind me. There's just something appealing about having all of your games just there. And I know it's one of these things where it just seems a little bit superficial, but being able to just pick up a game and just chuck it in and just embrace it, that's what I loved about it. Now, with this current generation, we have lots of updates. So it's not as simple as just chuck it in and, put on the power button, get your controller ready, that's ready to go. Those updates have caused a bit of a wall. However, I would say that there are some games that don't have that problem. I think Resident Evil not Revelations, there was a deluxe digital edition with the HD version of 0 and 1, the HD remasters. That didn't have any updates whatsoever. You could pop it in, the disc would install, no updates whatsoever. It was just ready to go. I think the same with Uncharted, the Legacy Collection. That didn't have any updates on it for, I think, a long while. I don't know if they needed one because of PS5. But it was, and now when we, like in our previous one, we talked about Cyberpunk, we've got a 46 gig update. I can't play the game. I have to, and for me, because my internet is from the Stone Age, I have to wait 9 hours before I can play the game.
Maybe it is.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with certain physical aspects is the updates are a bit of a detractor, because just they're going, well, why don't you just get it digital? Which is a fairly valid argument. But again, going back to what Johnny says, like for me, I don't know my personal circumstances. Like for example, everything could go, bit tits up for me. And I think having something physical and being able to resell it. I know this is like the reseller in me talking, and it's less so much about the game, but you can't exactly sell your account. You could try and say, "Oh yeah, I've got all these games."
I think people do. I think there is a market for that. You can value your games and sell. They do it with Steam and everything. People sell Steam accounts with loads of games, and I think it goes into a darker territory about fraud and stuff. So we won't get into that.
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I think I just like that option. For me, again, I love it. I think for me, physical for the older generation of games. Like I've got a ton of Mega Drive games there. Yeah. One of the games I have in here, which I'm glad I got physically, was Rocket Knight Adventures, a criminally underrated game on the Mega Drive. It's basically Konami's Sonic the Hedgehog, essentially, or Mario. It's their mascot, and it's a fantastic game. But it's never been released on any compilations like Streets of Rage and Golden Axe have. And I just love the fact that I can just plug this game in, and I have that now. As long as my Mega Drive doesn't die, because I don't trust. I think gaming companies haven't really done the best job of preserving video games, like in terms of legacy. They've just kind of let things slip, and I get it because some games become outdated, not in the fashion. But I think as a part of history, certain games should have that ability to be seen and to be, because I would recommend Rocket Knight Adventures to anybody who is considering getting a Mega Drive just for the pure nostalgia value. Yeah. But it's never on any compilations, and it's sad because I want people to experience what I experienced, and they can't.
Yeah, and those experiences need to be celebrated. I do understand that sort of like a mnemonic nostalgic thing of taking the cartridge out of the box, giving it a blow, checking the pins, and then popping it in your console.
Wipe my disc.
With the legacy games. Hang on there. With the legacy games like that and the consoles, I totally understand it, but I think with the newer stuff, you need to just start, letting go a bit and conforming to the changes that are going to happen. I don't see a way back from this, from the subscription services, from everything digital. There's no way back.
I agree.
I could see. Oh, sorry, you go, Johnny.
I agree, but I just don't think I don't think physical's going to die. Just like with movies, like we've got the Netflix and stuff, but you can still buy Blu-rays. And even though I tend to buy some 4K Blu-rays, I'm only going to buy my favorites because they mean a lot to me, and I'd rather just have them. But I'm going to go back a few bits on what things you've said. I'm going to say the games that come out without an update. Final Fantasy VII Remake has had one update, which landed last month. It hadn't had anything else, and no one even knows what the update did because they didn't specify. But that game is off
No
the
bugs
bat
then.
fine. You know, to be honest, I didn't see any bugs with it. There's a cheeky texture in there that's famous, well, infamous, a door texture that's not really that good, so everyone knows about that. And then going back even further, when you were talking about the iTunes going digital, I've got a bit of historical news why he did that. Basically, yeah, piracy was at its peak digitally. You had Napster and you had Pirate Bay and LimeWire, where you get a virus every time. And
the good old days.
And Steve Jobs basically turned around and he says, look, we can't change how they're getting the music or whatever. We have to give them a legal option where we can also profit from it. And it works. I mean, that's why we've got Spotify and everything. And it's just like, I'd rather just pay 10 quid a month, get everything I want at high quality instead of having to download illegally. I'm happy I'm getting quality things. They're happy they're making some money at least, even though they don't make as much as when you buy a CD or anything. But we know money in those.
Just to cut in there, Johnny, was it George Michael who had the big lawsuit with iTunes?
Yeah,
because
I remember that.
All of his music technically wasn't owned by him; it was owned by iTunes. So he took them to court. I think it was George Michael.
Yeah, it rings a bell. Yeah,
there's been a big lawsuit on that.
Been a few little things, like Taylor Swift had that big thing with Spotify and everything until she got a big payday.
Yeah, even though he'd paid for his music.
Yeah.
I think that leads into another thing, which is with digital products. We're going to go into services in just a moment, but it's like you say, it's the licensing. For me, there's almost a bit of it's basically you're given a selection. That's how I see it, because there could be something that I could see on there and then it was off. I think at one time I really wanted to watch Snowpiercer, the film by I've forgotten his name, but he's a director who won an Academy Award for Parasite, I think.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I can't place his name. Great film.
Yeah, Chris Evans in the lead role, and it was fantastic. If you haven't seen it, I think it's on Netflix now, but do check it out. I think there's also a TV series as well on Prime.
Yeah, the TV series was on Netflix because I started watching it, but I wasn't too keen on that compared to the film. I'm not sure. I hadn't seen the film on Netflix though.
No, I mean, for me, I think there was a service that did it and then they took it off. So I actually had to get my copy elsewhere. I think I had to get it imported, so I've got like a Dutch copy, but it still plays in English and has English subtitles. But I took that compromise because I wanted that film to play at any particular time. And then you talk about games that have been delisted. One of the famous ones which has come up recently because a remaster is coming in January is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah.
I bought that. I think it's a great little platformer. It's got that nostalgic feel. The music is fantastic, and I still have. I've had it on my PS3 since I've had my PS3. It's the one game I haven't downloaded because I heard they delisted it and they weren't accepting new downloads. And I think that was my first exposure and the kind of first strike one for digital services, because I wanted to be able. I bought that game. I should be able to download at any point, and I can't. And why? I mean, Observer. I know that they've got a System Redux version. For those who don't want to buy the PS5 version, they should be able to download the PS4 version, but it's been delisted. I mean, I can still download that if I wanted to. So it's good that that's on the system. I guess they're trying to promote the remaster. But what about if you just want the base version? You know, it's just things like that.
Do you think there might be a way that it might come a thing to advertise like a guarantee on how long they will have them for? Maybe like bring a game out and say, we can guarantee this will stay on our store for the next 10 years. It's something like that. I mean,
got something legally binding,
Yeah. So people know what they're getting. Like on Netflix, well, is it Netflix? Well, on Sky and stuff, it says like, this is available until like September or next December or something. Maybe something like that, especially when it comes to like Marvel and DC, because those things are really hard to get like contracts and stuff. So it could last from like months to years, depending how it sells. I mean, a game could do rubbish and they might just cut it early on, but if you've got some sort of guarantee it might entice. And something else that I think would entice people to digital, especially me, when it comes to PlayStation, is prices. I mean, Last of Us 2, I bought it for £50 physical from Amazon, and it was 55 on the store. And I just feel like that's a bit the wrong way kind of round if you want to promote it, because I don't know if I mentioned it last podcast, but PlayStation, Sony and Microsoft make more money from digital sales than they do physical, and it's cutting out the middleman and everything. So in my way, they try and pull people in. But when it comes down to selling games, I mean, like Dark Souls, well, Demon Souls is now £70. And the thing is with that, if I bought that digital, I'm only going to play it once, I think. And then it's like, okay, I've paid £70 and I've got that there, I've played it once. But if I've got it physical, I can play it once and then trade it in for like £45 worth to go towards another game. So I think with expensive stuff like that, because on PC, games are relatively cheap anyway, so I'm not too bothered with that. But like I said, console games like Nintendo, their games are like £50 and they're not budging at all. So if it were digital with them, I'd feel a bit stuck. So
on the flip side of that, though, you've got all these digital games, but there's more opportunities. There's going to be a sale on, and you're going to get those cheaper.
That's true.
They might start off more expensive, and you pay for that convenience in the short term. But you're going to have those opportunities time and time again where there's a sale on.
Yeah. Fully agree with you.
I mean, for me, I managed to get Borderlands the Handsome Collection for £4. I got Metal Gear Solid 5 the definitive edition for £3.50. So there is some crazy deals out there. If you at the right times, they're brilliant, and they do undercut the value of games immensely. And but that's only on the odd occasion, I feel. And there are games that I have bought some digital games. There is some games like the one big game that I've been playing recently is Undertale, and I'm embarrassed that it's taken me 5 years to play it. And oh my god, we'll save that for a review. It's and for me that's kind of won my heart in a way. Spoiler, but yeah, I can see the appeal with digital, because the great thing about digital as well is independent developers. Like, you are able to get your game onto a platform, and just because you don't have the money or the funds to be able to afford the physical production of a game, you can still get your game out digitally and be successful. There's even free games that obviously are doing this with digital mobile models, and they're doing fantastic in terms of engagement. So I think there are some perks to digital, definitely. I just think the physical it's almost like a safety net in a way.
Materialistic as well, you've got it there.
Well, yeah, I like it. I mean, sure, a game may require an update, but I just like having it there. And it's like you say, with with the games being like £70, for me as well, if I've ever borrowed a game from someone and I've loved it so much, I've actually gone out of my way to buy it again. Like, I bought a copy after I've played it. Last of Us is a perfect example. I had that the PS3 version. I had it. My friend Dan gave it to me, and afterwards I went out the next day and bought a physical copy, because I was like, I need to play this again. I'm going to buy it. And then I ended up buying the remastered collection, and then The Last of Us Part 2 as well. So it's buying this lending of games. I see it's been a part of gaming culture for a while. And I know it's part of the future to go all digital. And it makes sense from a business perspective for consoles to go this way, because you are making a lot more money. And from a digital perspective as well, 2020 was the first year that digital sales outweighed physical sales for the first time ever. It's like 52% or something like that. And that's mainly due to the current global climate. That's definitely a factor in it. But again, we're moving into this digital age, which leads me on to my next part, which is digital services. So maintenance subscriptions as well. So the big ones that we have at the moment. So obviously, I'd say Steam is a factor. Even though it's not a subscription, Steam has very competitive prices. And then you've also got the other side of the coin, which is the Epic Games Store as well. So they are kind of fighting it out for PC sale dominance. And then on the console side, you have PlayStation Store, no, PlayStation Store subscription services. You have PlayStation's Plus and the Now services, and then with Xbox you have Game Pass, which has gained a lot of traction in the last few months. We're seeing competitive price models for this. I mean, we're seeing I think they're roughly about £100 a year, or anywhere between, I think it's like £6 to £9 a month for certain ones, and they're both greatly appealing. I mean, what do you guys make of Xbox Game Pass and like PlayStation Now and Plus?
Right.
Well, Game Pass is definitely it's had a fair whack from me in terms of my time investment, purely because I've got it on the PC as well, so it's across multiple platforms.
Of course.
There's a good selection of games on there. You've got EA Play on there now, so there's even more games, and they're just adding to it all the time. There are some games that drop off, which they're going to do. It's like Netflix. I think they gauge how popular they are, and then
they can't afford to just keep adding to a never-ending library. It's just not viable.
Yeah.
But there's enough on there to keep you going for years.
I agree. I really enjoy the Xbox Game Pass. I use it on PC. I'm not going to get into all, is it the future? Is it profitable for developers? Because I've talked about it a few times with people. I don't know if I mentioned it on the air or anything, but I'm sick of talking about if it's good for the developers.
So 3.
I'm sick of you talking about it as
well. You love it. But yeah, it's a good service. PlayStation Now, it's a good service. It's not as good, but as we've said, Sony president has said they've got something to compete against that, which we did think was PlayStation Plus collection, but it's not. So I'm waiting to see what they're going to pull out, because they've seen competition now. But even though I do think PlayStation is winning this console generation yet again, it probably will, and the physical side, I don't think they want Xbox taking this live service market away. I think Sony are like, we can get a piece of this if we work it well. We can't just leave it to them. I mean, Stadia's tried. Is it still a thing?
Oh yeah, I forgot about Stadia.
Stadia
in the list.
You didn't even mention it. There's 12 people on that service, and you've left them out.
12 people.
It might be 10.
I also forgot. Amazon's Lunar service, but to be fair,
I was just about to mention that.
Yes. It's not launched yet, has it? I don't think.
I think there was a beta that was launched.
Right. But yeah, Stadia. They've had so many launch problems, and they're not really been that supportive with consumers. I know people, and it is good, and if it works, it's good, fair play. But if Google aren't going to push it enough and expand on it enough, then it's just not going to work. It's not down to the consumers; it's down to them.
But I
problem
think
is,
Luna's I think Luna's purely cloud gaming, is it not?
I don't fully know. That's professionalism, people. We don't know nothing.
We did a news article on this as well.
I don't know if it's that only, but the thing is, at the end of the day, I mean, Amazon bought Twitch, so they're already in with the streaming, things like that, and they've already got like additions. I think they saw the competition with Stadia and thought they could take it because money everywhere. So I think they will rise and might be competing against Xbox and Sony with theirs. I know Nintendo's got a little live thing, but it's not on that level. So
I think with Nintendo,
exactly.
Nintendo have their kind of, it's their following, which is, they've been, like I say, I only realized that they've been going for 140 years, and they were pretty much at the initial point of the gaming market. Like the Game & Watch was their first kind of majorly successful system. And that was like 40 years ago. And now they've become this kind of, they've had the prestige, they've won the hearts because of their unique style of games. And I think the problem with Stadia, to go back to that point, is that the one thing that they made wrong was the price point, because there was no incentive there. If they had like a flat price model and just said, here you go, you've got access to all these titles for this price, I think that would have been incredibly appealing. But they were charging for games in the same way. I see Game Pass. I see Doom Eternal and Control like as announced games, and I'm stood there going, "Wow, they're really going ahead." PS Now, I think one of the most recent announcements is going to be on PS Now, it's a great game if you haven't played it. I mean, if you've been disappointed by the PC initially, but hopefully the patches are okay now. At least if you want to play it on a console, PS Now will have you covered in that aspect. So, but PS Now, it hasn't really been as appealing as Xbox Game Pass. It's Xbox Game Pass is right in your face. It's like, here are all these games. This is what you can do. Here's all the systems you can play it on. And PlayStation Now has just been kind of subtle, despite I think PS Now does have more games than Xbox Game Pass. I think I might be wrong, but
the thing is with Sony though and Nintendo, they didn't need to engage in that market because they've got their following. People are buying their games, which it says it from the sales figures. Nintendo, they don't have a problem selling out, even though they keep games full price, even from launch. It's still selling. Sony is selling. The only people that were suffering a little bit were Xbox, and that's why they've taken this new market, which I think, like I said, that Sony's going to try and compete, and it might bring some prices down for both the Nintendo and Sony consoles and bring prices down for games, and we'll see how it goes from there, I think.
Yeah, I think looking at the digital models that they've released, it seems like they're trying to go that way. I've always seen Xbox Game Pass as being like they're trying. I think that they're trying to mimic the Netflix model. And if you look at Netflix, like their total subscribers, I think as of October 2020, is 195 million worldwide. That is a huge amount. Yeah. When you think about it, it's incredible. When you and their operating income was 1.2 billion, and Microsoft is seeing that and they're going, I want something like that. And I think that's why they're pushing themselves that way. With PlayStation, I guess we'll wait to see. But certainly, like I say, with Nintendo, I think they've got their prestige. I think they've got their consistency. Stadia, I think it's going to be an uphill battle. Luna's interesting. I think also because of the relationship with Twitch. I think that could be an interesting proposition. There could be something major going on there. So, it's something to keep an eye on. And I think with like Steam and Epic Game Store, I mean, Epic Games is still in their lawsuit with Apple at the moment. So, we'll see what comes about that. I think Steam's been consistent, and you always hear about the Steam sales and the wallets, the money fluttering away. Yeah. So, I think so. Just to kind of like wrap this all up. So would you say, so two questions to ask each of you. So do you think that all digital is the future of gaming? And the second question is, should it be?
Yes, and in the name of progression in humanity, I'd say, yeah.
Sorry.
Not that I agree with it. I hate the fact that we're having to conform with society and do all this stuff and be constantly connected to everything and play games that require you to be connected to the internet. I hate that fact, but it's the way things are going, and we can't fight that. We just can't do it.
And what do you think, Johnny?
It might sound like I've got something against digital on here, but I don't, because like I said, all my games are basically on PC and I download them. But I don't think they should all be digital, and I don't think they ever will. I think it's same with just like I said, movies and music. I mean, vinyl's made a massive comeback over the last 5 to 6 years because it's physical. But also with that comes a price point because it's becoming more of a rare collector's kind of hobby. And maybe that's what physical games might be. They might be like, oh, here's digital, but if you want physical, it's a bit more out of his way now, so we don't really do it that much. So they might end up being 80, 90 pounds or something like that. So I think that might be the way they're going. They might be like, oh, here's physical, but it's a lot more. But if you want that collection and you're wanting that kind of thing, I think it will still be option, because if they can do it at that price, they'll be making a right profit. Because there are collectors out there, you see it all the time, that do have as much physical as they can. So I think digital will like you said, it's already taken over this year. It might have just been because of how things are, but it's been on the rise for years, and it will take over. And I think it will probably dominate 80 to 90% of it in the next 5 to 10 years. But
yeah, I was going to say that over the next few years, we're going to see that out. We're going to see the online sales compared to the physical sales, and if it carries on over that mid mark, then it's just going to decline the physical sales, because the company's going to realize, we can make all this money without paying the factories to make the discs and whatever else.
I think for myself.
Oh no, go on.
I was just
going to be offices of people making games and releasing them.
Yeah. I think for me personally, like, I think we are going towards an all digital future, and for me, I mean, there's something about physical that I just, okay, you could say, I think as well with the disc, it's not that I'm buying a license, I'm buying a product. Office, Microsoft Office, that used to be, you get license codes. Now you're paying towards subscription services. I could have used Office 2003, even though it's completely unsupported, but I could use that to the end of day. Whereas if I wanted to have Office now, I would have to subscribe. And it's something about that. I don't know. It's just conforming to that kind of service. I mean, I don't mind it. I'm not against it. And I think that physical just opens another option for gamers. And even though they have all these updates, I think it's a good thing to have that balance. Like you say with vinyls, like I've acquired a lot of vinyls. I've got my Chemical Romance vinyl just over there. I just love something. It's something physical about it that I really enjoy, and I can see the appeal. I don't want it to be. And the one final thing I will say is that I think physical needs to be expensive. If they want to push digital, they need to reduce the price of digital and push up physical. Like, that's me speaking from a business sense.
But
that's
then also on top of that, the world needs to work on its internet, because internet coverage and quality around the world is very poor, to be honest with you. I know Australia's is shocking, and it's just not up to par, because a lot of governments and things don't take it as a high priority. So I think if you're going to get these digitals, I think we need to start pushing for better internet for everybody, because a lot of people get physical because they don't want to pay for high speeds, or they can't get them, and that's another big issue. So it's like we can only do so much with digital with as bandwidth of internet. So that's another issue that needs to be sorted out.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just conscious of time now.
Yeah, we're about to we'll wrap this up. But thank you very much, gentlemen, for just being you.
There's never enough time to talk about everything that we want to talk about. And when podcast ends, I'm always there like,
Exactly. Well, just quickly, we'll wrap this up. I just want to say thank you very much to all of our viewers. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast this week, and we'll catch you on the next episode. See you guys.
See you later.
Bye.